Hey y'all, this season we're teaming up with our friends at Written Word Media. Self publishing can be a solitary gig, but book marketing doesn't have to be, even if you love it like April does. Written Word supports indie authors with email promos and ad services that actually work. Whether you're launching a new release or trying to breathe some life into a backlist title, they've got tools and real humans to help. We've met them, we really have, to help you reach the readers who are looking for books like yours. They can also help you grow your newsletter and find brand new readers.
Both Jen and I have used their services and we're huge fans. So head on over to writtenwordmedia.com and let them help you shine a light on your book.
Shine a light.
Hello and welcome to the Tough Love Publishing Podcast. I'm April L. Moon and this is my fascinating co-host, Jen LaSalle.
I love that one. Fascinating is just like, because I think of myself as boring most of the time. So I think it's funny when somebody's like, you're so fascinating.
I get the same thing a lot and I'm always like, really? Because writers spend most of our time sitting in a computer, like alone in a room.
Yeah, I think writing seems more glamorous from the outside than the inside. Like all the stuff we do feels very mundane, but someone else is like, whoa, that's really cool.
100%. Yeah, I can see that. It's definitely more fascinating from the outside than from the inside.
I kind of feel like I want to take that though and like, how can I create wonder in my day kind of perspective on it and be like, what did I do today that was wondrous or unique? Just to give myself that little dopamine boost.
Okay, so this is completely off our topic for today, but I'm going to say it anyways because it
Good.
perfectly goes into that, which is I heard Sarah Cannon,
Hey,
sorry,
Sarah Cannon.
say at a conference one time, like, is your writing life as romantic as you expected it to be? And if not, how can you change that? Like, we all fell in love with the idea of like the romantic writing, whatever. And like,
Yeah,
if it doesn't feel that way day to day, what can you do to add the romance? And I
I
was like,
love that.
I came home from that conference and I painted my office blue.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Oh, it was our conference, wasn't it? I know that I think about it. Maybe not. I can't remember.
I think it was maybe Nink.
I think you
I've
might
seen
be
her at a
right.
couple conferences, so they kind of like which one was which topic. I don't remember, but
Sometimes they blend together just a little bit, but I did get all giddy about a spreadsheet earlier today, and we're way off topic, but I was going through a spreadsheet with someone else, and I was like, she was getting it, like she was seeing the patterns along with me, and I was like, oh, this is so exciting. Unity through data. Like it was just,
I love it so
oh.
much.
And speaking of
Okay.
unity, yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So vibe checks to this week are
Ooh,
we
dun,
went on a writer's retreat and it
oh
was
my
fantastic.
gosh, we got to see each other in person, look at actual faces and hug actual people, and it
Yes.
was glorious.
And it was just the two of us and our third writing, I don't even know, wife. What do we call each
I
other?
think I like mastermind. I like that we're a mastermind. I
We
don't
do.
mind the whole writing spouse thing, but I don't know. I feel like you guys might be closer to me.
That's fair. That's
It's
fair.
a
So
different
our
level.
the three of us in our like personal mastermind all went on a retreat together and it was delightful.
All
I don't know if you can tell from our faces that we seem more rested, but
right. We're glowing. We're glowing. Someone literally told me I was glowing when I came home, and I was like, I think I am because we got to dance on the beach under a full moon,
yeah,
which
it was
is
pretty fun.
yeah, it was very like earthy and hippie of us, but I loved it. And
Which is
yeah,
really funny because I'm like the least hippie person ever.
this is
Like
true.
it's not my it's not my MO at all, but that's
But
okay.
it unlocked this tiny piece of joy inside of me to see you, who that is not your MO, just letting go and like being one with nature. Like I was like, that's part of the beauty of this weekend is that like all of our energy molds together and creates this like super group of authors. And I just think that is the coolest thing. And you don't always just write on a writer's retreat. We
It's true.
didn't do a
A lot
ton
of
of writing.
talking. We did a lot of talking and planning and
Yeah,
like, hey, I want to get to this level. How do I get to this? And like talking
right.
with each other and stuff, which is like half the magic, right?
Yeah.
But I think one of my favorite things about our annual writing retreat is that like it's a tool to be successful by feeling successful.
Yes.
Like it's kind of one of those catch 22s that like it's hard to feel successful if you haven't reached the level you want yet. But in
Right.
order to reach that level, I truly believe that you already have to have those feelings, right? You have to feel
Yeah.
that, you have to lean into that, you have to embrace it.
Hmm.
So I love our writer's retreat as a chance to just lean into the success.
I agree. And I also think just the idea of having a writer's retreat that like my business pays for
Yeah.
feeds that idea of success. That's like this is a part of my growth as a business. And so it's not just like a treat. It's not like, mom's weekend away or girls weekend out or anything like that. This is literally a business weekend that is also rejuvenating and relaxing.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And I think like so much stuff just happens when you're conversational with someone that you don't necessarily get when you hear it in a conference or you're just talking, in passing every day. But when you're sitting there and you're having a conversation, things would just come up. Like
Yeah.
we would just be like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize X or Y or something."
Yeah.
It just happened a gajillion times over the weekend.
And the other thing about being in person with someone is that, like, especially over the course of a couple of days, is that like things have time to ruminate, and then you
Yeah.
come back and be like, hey, that thing we were talking about yesterday, what about this? And like you can continue building on the realizations.
Yeah.
A lot of times at conferences, there's so many attendees
Mhm.
that you might not see the same person again, or you might be in different places at different times. And it's just, there's not always time for that one-to-one conversation, which I think is
Yeah. Yeah. I really love Lee Savino and Renee Rose are doing like smaller, like Joy-Con kind of ideas. And I love that. I love the smaller personal conferences as opposed to the big ones. And the big ones have their purpose. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy them. I go to them from time to time. But for me personally, like I really want that smaller, in-depth, like really meaty
Mhm.
kind of weekend as opposed to just getting a lot of high level information.
I agree. I think it's great.
We also ate a lot of meat, so it was meaty both literally and figuratively.
The lovely LaSalle is referring to the fact that my diet has changed recently because of my allergies. So I was grilling, like, well, I guess not grilling, we use the stove, but like I was cooking a lot of meat all weekend to be high protein and low carb.
It
Anyway,
was fun. It was always fun. There was always meat around in one form or another.
you can't say that in front of a romance author,
I
Jen.
know, right? I know. Snorts and steamy. But I don't write
Anyways,
steamy, so
but you make all the jokes. It's
I
never me,
do.
it's always.
That is that is very true. I don't write steamy, but I think it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, our discussion topic today
Oh, we have an
is
actual topic today. Okay.
yes, we do. We should probably get to it before people get bored.
Right.
Our topic today is newsletter strategies and organic versus forced growth.
Yay.
Dun, dun,
Dun,
dun.
da, da, da.
Yeah, I should probably not do sound effects, but anyway. So we're just gonna dive right into what is organic newsletter growth.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah.
This is just to start it off with an opinion. This is my favorite kind of newsletter growth.
Okay.
I have had previous pen names where I have tried a lot of different strategies that were more what we're going to talk about in the second part of the episode.
Hmm.
But I feel like I learned from that and refined it down only to things like back matter links to bonus scenes, because the decision I made last year when I was setting up my newsletter was like, I only want readers on my newsletter who've actually read one of my books.
Hmm.
Like, I kind of jokingly said the cost to entry of my newsletter is that you have to have read a book to get the link. That's kind of how I phrased it. But what that tells me was you were already engaged enough that you were willing to read and you made it to the end,
Yeah.
right? And like beyond that, I don't think it gets much more of a engaged reader than that.
Yeah. And just for
So,
definition purposes, organic newsletter growth is growth that it's something that happened as a part of your reader reading the book or something that happened as a part of the reader finding you as opposed to cold sales or, reaching news like growth of your newsletter to people who haven't ever heard of you. Just to
right,
clarify that. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah. So, like, I mean, the most obvious way of organically growing your newsletter is what you mentioned, which is that's a back matter link to a bonus scene, right?
Mhm.
And you have some good examples. You have really unique examples of bonus scenes because you've done like A/B testing on it for steamy romance.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I am totally a data nerd, as we have covered a lot of times, but I feel like that can apply in different ways than people might expect. So I have actually tracked my back of book links two different ways, both of which worked. Number one, I have used vellum formatting to put in an Amazon attribution link to track how many people actually click that link and buy the next book or
Yes.
download it in KU. But in regards to newsletters, I use a book funnel link that goes to a specific group inside my newsletter, which is through Flowdesk, in case you don't have a newsletter yet and you need to set one up. And what that allows me to do is keep track of like, hey, this is the book title. This is the group on Flowdesk that has gotten me this many subscribers.
Hmm.
So I can test out the different types of scenes and see which ones my readers most want when they're not trying to answer a poll, right? Because
Right.
polls are a little tricky because when people know they're being polled, they're more likely to think instead of just like gut react.
Hmm.
Whereas if they're just like, "Ooh, I want that," they're acting in their own self-interest and that's more revealing, I think, than an intentional poll.
So
So
instead of asking the audience, would you rather a steamy scene or a bonus epilogue, for example, you actually just ran steamy scenes for a while and ran bonus epilogues and then looked at the data.
So, yes, what I've been doing is like each book I'll try something different. And like
Right.
for the first three books in my series, one just had like kind of a random steamy scene that was not related to the book in any way. It was just the characters and nothing else.
Hmm.
And it just said, "Hey, want more of these two characters? Click
Hmm.
here, blah, blah, blah." That has been like my lowest performing one. The second book was the highest performing one for a long time. It was a scene that like two other characters left the dance floor together. So like they knew what was happening, but they didn't get the details. And
Hmm.
then at the end, I was like, "Hey, remember when they left the dance floor? You want this scene?" Because it was like teased in the book.
Love
And that
it.
did significantly better. The other thing I will say is that I tried, what was the third one? I don't even remember what the third one did not do as well. I don't remember what the third one was off the top of my head, but it was not as successful as one or two.
Hmm.
So I ended up for book four, I just did another fade to black scene, like where I mentioned it but didn't go into the details and was like,
Right.
"Hey, want this?" Yeah, they really wanted that. And it got even more detail or it got even more subscribers than the previous books had.
So it's not just adding a random bonus scene to the
Correct.
end of the book, even a steamy one. It's one that is in relation to something they already read in the book. So like you subconsciously teased it before you put it in the back matter.
Yes. And that was like not intentional. I just got to the end of that book and was like, "Oh man, I have no idea what I want to put." And I was like, "Oh, well, let me
Yeah.
just write that." And so I did, and people loved it. And so I've doubled down on that. And it keeps,
I love it when you find those happy accidents like that. I actually have a similar non-steamy example, um,
Mhm.
which is in book two of my midlife at the Magnolia series. I don't know where midnight came from. She's reading Simone, the main character, is reading from this codex. It's a like magical book that they found that's answering things. And throughout the book, there's little like snippets from the codex, right? And so what I used as the ep or the bonus for a newsletter was an actual like the pages of the codex. It's a couple of pages. And I used Canva to make it look like faded parchment. And then
I
I
love
made a joke about Simone like spilling coffee on it and literally put like a coffee stain and like some of the words got washed away. Like I just blurred the text in Canva. And it was way more successful than book one, where I had referenced a scene that happened before the book started. And it was actually that scene.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So and I was really surprised by how many people liked that. And it really opened up it opened up my eyes to the fact that it doesn't always have to be something else you write, which
Mhm.
I think can be really beneficial because sometimes writers either don't want to or cannot. And our my cat is the third member of our podcast today, so apologies if y'all can hear her. If you don't want to or cannot write another scene or you run out of time or something like that, for fantasy romance and or fantasy even, you can use maps of the town. That's actually what I'm doing for my third book because there's a scene and it's the same thing. I tease it. She's visualizing the town as she's spreading her magic out over the town to do a thing. And so I kind of talk about the town and then I made a map that matches to what she was visualizing. So it's a fun, like, want to actually see the town kind of thing. And it's a map. You can do, if you're a sci fi reader, blueprints of ships or specific systems do really well. Layouts of, like rooms or military tactics also do well. I have a friend who writes cozy mysteries and she has little like crime reports, like they have headers, but it's cutesy. It's not like a police report with like graphic detail. But if you wrote thrillers, you could do that. Or my medical thriller writer that I help run ads for, he does medical reports sometimes. So it's like want to see the actual medical findings of this. And some people really want to read it. Um,
It's definitely genre dependent, which I
it
think is like
is.
a really important point of like,
Yeah.
be creative and ask yourself like, okay, why are my readers reading what I write? Like, what is it about this genre that's pulling them in? And how can I give them more of that?
Yes, yes. And it's a testing thing. Like
Mhm.
honestly, you can do one thing for one book and another thing for another book.
Or
And
you can run like something like you said earlier, you could run it for 3 to 6 months and be like, hey,
right,
I wrote something new, or I made a map, or I did whatever new
right.
idea. Let's test changing that back matter because the back matter does not have to stay the same,
Right. And
right?
that's actually really crucial to know if you format your own books and if you're in vellum. The back matter does not have to stay the same because not everyone does that. Or if you're traditionally published, this may not be an option for you.
Mhm.
But one of the reasons I love formatting my own books is because I can periodically update my own back matter and just upload it to Amazon and to Direct to Digital and, Bob's your uncle.
And I would say like that's the primary reason to format your own books personally for
Yeah.
me ways is that I want to be able to change something if it's not working,
I like
right?
having control over what I can control, and the content of my book is that.
Indie authors like having control over
I know,
stuff.
right?
So
That's so wacky.
ridiculous. Okay. Was that
Um,
all of your examples? I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm
no,
sorry.
no, I'm glad you did. The only other
Okay.
one that I would throw out there is if you're writing small town, either romance or small town mysteries, if you mention like a specific festival or an event, or you can do a brochure for the town, those are also really fun and cutesy, and they spark a different part of your creativity. And I have found readers really respond to those kinds of things.
Holidays too on that note,
Yes. Yeah.
like I read a book one time, I believe it was by Taryn Quinn. It was like a small town romance, but one character was obsessed with Halloween, and so like the
Mhm.
bonus scene, because she had like a spooky coffee shop, and the bonus scene was like them celebrating Halloween as a family, and it
I
was the
love that.
cutest thing, and I just love that. So
That's really cute. And you're actually reminding me, a friend of mine did, I don't know why, because you said, I think because you said coffee shop, but a friend of mine did like cocktail recipes because they talk about different like drinks in the book. And so she did cocktail recipes. Some people do dictionaries, like if your book takes place in a specific place, that maybe has its own vernacular or fun phrasing, you can do like dictionaries or lexicons for that too.
yep, yeah, that's awesome.
Way to be fun.
Way to be fun. Okay. So those are all ideas of like newsletter magnets, things you can give readers for free at the end of your book to
Right.
get that organic growth going. But a lot of people feel like, especially if they're launching a new pen name or they're launching a new series, that like, hey, maybe I need to like already have people on my list
Right.
to send this new release to, which I think we could question that, but that's a whole nother episode topic. But if you want to push growth faster for your newsletter than maybe you're getting just from back of book links, like maybe you haven't figured out what your audience wants yet, that's okay. Keep testing. But we're going to give you some ideas of ways that you can push some growth. But I want to be very, very clear before we get into it. We do not advocate breaking any advertising laws, okay? Please do not buy lists from people. Don't
Right.
do anything scammy. you want to find readers in a law-abiding,
Mm-hmm.
safe way to do it. Okay. You
Not
don't want to
yet.
be known as the author who uses like bad marketing practices. Okay. That's not a good look for anybody in any genre.
Yep.
So now that we got that out of the way, newsletter swaps are one of the first ones that we both came up with.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think these are hard because whoever you're swapping with has to be really closely aligned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not with your branding. If you're steamy with your heat level, or if you're just in romance, I shouldn't say just if you're steamy, but if you're in
Right.
romance with your heat level,
Right.
because whenever you're writing steamy versus sweet, there's not just steamy scenes and fade to black scenes or not putting those scenes in. There's kind of a whole set of things that go with it. So,
Yeah.
like, how much cursing is in a clean book versus a steamy book? How much violence might be in a steamy book or a dark romance book versus a small town? Like, there's
Right.
all these different layers.
Even
So,
tone. Right.
and tone, yes.
Yeah.
So the more closely aligned you are, the better results you're going to get from a newsletter swap. And it's really hard if you're trying to pinpoint accuracy on who to swap with. There's not going to be that many options most of the time.
Yeah, and I want to point out that to my knowledge, there's two main services that can help you with newsletter swaps, and BookFunnel is the first one that April mentioned. Um, BookFunnel, is it BookFunnel? Yeah.
Yeah, book funnel.
I don't know why in my head it sounded weird. Yeah, so with BookFunnel, you can create your reader magnet, you can upload it. They handle for you people receiving the reader magnet. They can even integrate with your newsletter service. So if you use MailerLite or Flowdesk or whatever, they can integrate with that. So they automatically upload them to your newsletter and to your mailing list. And they do the tech support part of it, which is really nice. And then the other one is Story Origin, which is another good one for finding promos and swaps like that. So if you do want to go the route of swaps, and I'm going to actually say that I actually rarely do them as well. Um, because I write kind of niche. So I write women's fiction, but I write paranormal women's fiction. And for a while, there weren't a ton of authors who were writing it. So I didn't want to do swaps with just women's fiction writers. And I don't want to do swaps with, say, urban fantasy writers because they don't necessarily target the same demographic that I do. Also, quite frankly, I'm lazy with my newsletter. I do have a PA who would do it for me, but I don't even want her to spend her time on finding the swaps and arranging the swaps and following up on the swaps and sending the links. And there's all these steps, and both BookFunnel and Story Origin are great for making that part easier, but I don't even want to mess with it. So for the most part, I just don't even include it unless I have like a buddy who I know writes really similar to me and they have a new release. Like, I would be willing to mention that.
So, can I also add that for me, I think it's really important to say that if you are the person who is going to engage in swaps or any of the other like cooperative items on our list to help grow your newsletter,
Mhm.
please be the person that follows through and does what you say you're going to do.
Right, right.
Be a good citizen of the author community, just in
Yeah.
general, and follow through and give it your best effort because I think one of the reasons I don't do very many anymore is because I've had people get attitudes. I've had people be ugly about
Mm-hmm.
things that just weren't necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that puts a bad taste in your mouth. Like, why would I
Yeah.
go seeking out swaps that I don't necessarily need, because
Right.
I need to focus on organic marketing if the people are not even going to make it a good experience, right? So, like, always try to be aware of, are you giving as good as you're getting? Are
Yeah.
you being, helpful and part of a community and not just going, yeah, I got some more newsletter people, like that's
Right.
the vibe.
I think that's really valid. And also, a lot of people do so many newsletter swaps that you are just buried at the bottom of their newsletter with like 10 other books, right? It's like you and 10 other book covers, and it's like it's not even a valuable experience added. So even when I did swaps, I would limit them to four so I could have like this pretty like grid at the bottom of my newsletter. But then when I would see other people's swaps, it was like, here's 800 books that you could also read. And mine was just buried in there. And I was like, if I'm going to have to stand out in a crowd, I would rather do that with advertising than in a random newsletter where I can't really
And
quantify the results.
and I will say that if people are like doing the shotgun method of like, I want to get swaps with as many people as possible and not trying to target, their
Right.
list is probably not going to help you anyways.
Right.
Right. It's not going to truly be readers of just their book. It's readers of who knows whose book that they've like swapped 100 times. Like it's just,
Very
I don't know.
true.
Yeah.
Very true. We could go down that rabbit hole forever. We're just saying if you do swaps, be mindful of who you choose, make sure that you're giving and getting the same quality, and make sure that those are the readers that you want.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That sums it up.
Yeah, pretty much. But what's the fun of summing things up?
This would be a very short podcast.
I know,
Okay.
right?
So next up on the list are round robins. I'm going to be really honest. I have not done one of these yet, mostly because of issues of targeting and like alignment, like we
Hmm.
said about the newsletter swaps. But we do have a very good author friend who swears by them
Right,
because her niche, there's only so many people in the pool. And so
right.
swapping with those people who make up the core of the genre is really, really helpful for all of them. So they've got an ongoing round robin that they kind of mix up every year, and it works very well for them.
So, what is a round robin?
Okay, so a round robin is a group of authors picking a specified length of time and a
Hmm.
frequency of newsletter mailing, and
Hmm.
then they will all agree to feature one author's book that month, week, whatever,
Okay.
depending on the time frame. So most of them occur monthly for a year.
Hmm.
You get 12 authors, and like all 12 would send author A's book in January, and
Got
then
it.
all 12 would send author B's book in February, and so on.
So, it's kind of a specialized type of swap.
Yes, it is
Okay.
a more like group blast kind of swap, I
I
guess.
see. I see. Interesting. I've never done one either, actually. So, I was curious what it was.
Yes, and you'll see sign up if you have never heard of one of those in author groups. You'll start seeing chatter about them usually in December. Honestly,
Mhm.
like November, December, they're like, "Hey, set up your next year round robins, drop your genre and like book title here." And then like there's people that like match make. If you're
Right.
not part of a group that you can already know some people to do one with.
And so what you would do is you would coordinate that with your launch. So say you had a book coming out in March, you would want to be the featured book for March
Right,
or
right.
April, depending on, what you're planning.
Or if you always want to run a huge sale in September,
Right.
then maybe you ask for September. But
Right.
you know,
I love that. It's worth trying. That's interesting.
yeah.
So what are you swapping when you're doing these organic or not inorganic where you're pushing growth? Usually you want to use what people call sometimes a cookie, which is like kind of an incentive to join the newsletter. Most of the time it is like a prequel novella or a side story that is related to your main series. I because again, these are people who have never heard of you or they haven't read your books. So a bonus scene or an epilogue is not going to interest them because they haven't connected with the characters yet. 99% of the time this ends up being a prequel novella, which is like something that happened, especially if you're writing fantasy or fantasy romance or anything really with like an action or an overarching plot that isn't specifically or predominantly the romance itself. It's like something that happened to an ancestor or something that happened to the kingdom or something that happened like that. I actually have for my mermaid series, because it takes place in actually all of my books take place in the same world. But it takes place like there's this shopping center called Illusion Square that is referenced in actually most of my books. And there's a main or side character, and she's always in there, and she's married to a dragon. And so my novella that I use when I do want to use outside incentives is the story of her and her dragon getting together. It's just like a short, sweet second chance romance in under 10,000 words. And make sure that you're using a professional cover for it. Make sure it is professionally edited. Make sure it looks like you want it to look like it should match your branding, and make sure that you're linking to the book that you want them to buy at the very end.
Yeah, because you don't want to give someone something poor quality and then expect them to be excited to read the
Right.
next book.
Yeah. You don't want to be like, this is just a thing I threw together, but my other books are better. Trust me. Show them that this should be a quality thing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And yes, and our beloved sponsors, Written Word Media, do run newsletter ads. So, if you want to run to a newsletter sign up page, or if you have a free like novella or something that you want to generate attention to, they can run those ads for you.
Yes, they can.
Shout out to Written Word.
Okay, so the last thing on the list of ideas we have for you, there are group giveaways, and I am not vouching for the quality of any of these. I would like to say that up front.
Mhm,
I have tried them in the past, and my results in a very small niche, mind you,
mhm.
were that a lot of the people ended up dropping off your newsletter pretty quickly, and within the first 6 months the majority of them were gone anyways. So there's a higher turnover anytime you're getting someone from a giveaway,
Mhm.
like a group giveaway thing, but there are options out there specific for authors. So if that's something that you might be interested in, because it is more hands off,
And
sorry,
mhm.
um then there are options out there and they are fairly low cost. But I mean, I think this is probably last on the list for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I
And
mean? It just wasn't high on our list of like, this works so great, you know?
right, right. And group giveaways is where like one person hosts, for example, a site and there's a number of books on there. And there are some very successful ones. I'm not going to mention any of them, but there is, one in particular I can think of that is like very, very successful and prevalent. Uh so they're worth trying, but the problem becomes if you're always running this group giveaway that you have diminishing returns and like the value of what you're giving away gets like less over time.
And I would say the pro of it is that if you do have a full length book that you can
Mhm.
give away and the people do read it, you have a chance of converting them into an actual engaged reader.
Yes.
But you run the risk of people signing up just because they want a giveaway and not because they want your book.
Right. And
So
you can like coordinate it with your KDP. If you have KDP and you have the Kindle Daily deals and you do a free deal, you can coordinate that with like a group promo and, maybe do a newsletter stack with Written Word. I'm just saying. And you can, like maximize how many people see your promotion.
And there is actually one more thing that I just thought of that's not
Okay.
on this list, but probably should have been, and that is anthologies.
Oh, good call.
Because a lot of people don't think of an anthology as a newsletter building effort, but
Uh-huh.
if you use your back matter of your short story and you're
Right.
able to link that short story to your main series or whatever series you're writing next, that can be a great opportunity to drive some interest and use that newsletter magnet, or put your newsletter magnet in an anthology before it's published and then have it be, it's just an option
It's
to
a
get
smart
some
one.
cross promo.
Yeah, my novella, my side character novella is actually from an anthology. I
There we go. See?
didn't even think about that.
Okay.
Uh,
Um,
okay,
all right.
so we've talked about ways to grow.
Mhm.
Do you think you need to push growth other than organically?
I do not
Mhm,
typically. I'm sure there's some caveats to that. And like obviously everyone's genre and everyone's situation is unique.
mhm,
So if you have a really giant genre of like really closely aligned books, maybe you can get some great bang for your buck out of newsletter swaps. If you're in a really small niche, you might not get any bang for your buck out of
right,
newsletter swaps, right?
right.
And our time has value. So,
Mhm,
like, a lot of people think, well, this is free marketing. But if I spend 8 hours a month doing it, it's not free. It costs my time, right? So, always keep that in mind. But the main thing is, whatever promo method you decide to do, whatever newsletter builder you decide to do, make sure you have a way of tracking your results so
mhm.
that you know whether it's worth doing again. Because
Yeah,
most things, as long as it's legal and on the up and up, it's fine to try them, right? Like, yeah,
right,
let me go try this swap, this round robin, this whatever, but let me also track and see if that actually built my business. Because sometimes things that look successful in the front end
right.
don't always look successful in the long run when all those readers have left your list or it was frustrating or took double the time you thought. Like, there are true pros and cons to whatever we choose in marketing our books.
Yeah, and I did one of the large group giveaways, and I saw a lot of push to that book, but very little read through to the books that actually cost money. In part because those readers had so much free stuff that they didn't need to buy another book for like a lifetime.
Yeah. And that can be a big problem with like doing bulk giveaways specifically.
Yeah.
But I think it just depends. Like there are absolutely readers out there that are always looking for a new book and that would be
Yeah.
excited to pay for your books. Like I think that's
Yeah.
the number one thing to keep in mind.
I agree.
But like I've even done individual free signups to push newsletter growth.
Hmm.
And I got the Facebook ads down to like 4 cents a click, which if you run Facebook ads at all, you know that's a pretty dang good
Hmm.
price per click.
Yeah.
Um, and I got a lot of signups and no, it was like 2 cents a click and 4 cents a reader. It was crazy. Like it
Wow.
was crazy good. Okay.
Yeah.
No, nobody bought the rest of the books. Like it
Oh.
didn't convert, it didn't translate into anything meaningful. So after like a
Mhm.
month, even though it looked amazing, I ended up turning it off because if they didn't want to continue reading, then they weren't adding the value that I needed them to add.
And that's the value of having data that you can look at, that even if data is not a strong point for you or it overwhelms you, yeah, find a buddy, find an April or a Jen, or a company that can give you the details on that because something may seem like it's working really well. But if you're just running off vibes and you have nothing to like verify that with, it could end up like being sunk cost in the long term.
Yeah. And like, because that sounds kind of like Debbie Downer, I will say that even if you were running off vibes and you find out something isn't adding as much value to your business as you thought it was,
Hmm.
that's not the end of the world because one, getting information is always a win. Okay. I
Hmm.
learned, now I know that is a win right off the cuff. And number two, now you can go find where that value was coming from
Yeah.
and give it more attention, right? So if you find out some newsletter tactic wasn't working, but like, hey, this little link over here that I've been ignoring is actually getting me a ton of new readers.
Mhm.
Let's pursue that. Like that's valuable knowledge for you.
Yeah, and I want to tack on to that that when we talk about a successful newsletter, for us, that translates to readers who are going to purchase our books. But for example, if you are a nonfiction author and you want readers who are going to read what you're saying because you're selling services or you're providing information, then you may look to different markers of success than did they buy the next book or, did they buy anything from me? That might have a different value to you. So defining what you want out of a newsletter, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit in the tough love moment, but defining what you want out of your newsletter is going to help you determine whether something is working for you based on your terms, not ours.
I love that.
I
Okay,
love
so
you.
one last, I love you too. Okay, so one last question for you before we get to our tough love moment, and that
Okay.
is, what about newsletter onboarding? Like, do you think that that helps or hurts newsletter growth?
That's a great question. So, onboarding is basically like a series of emails, and they can be anywhere from like one quick, hey, thanks for downloading my book, to 4 or 5 emails that follow up on the previous emails that you send to a reader. They can be, in my opinion, super duper effective. I don't know that I can argue they are necessary. I will tell you, I personally enjoy it very much because each of mine, and I do a series of 4 spread out over like a 2-ish week period where I'm sending emails to this person that downloaded their back matter uh, bonus or whatever. Um, Most of the time, this is somebody who has already read my book and has like a lukewarm feeling for me. And
Mhm.
because of that, I want to capitalize on that and I want to make a true connection to them. So I am not selling them other books in my personal welcome sequence. I'm not like, hey, if you liked that book, you should read this one, because that's not my goal. My goal is to engage with my readers so that I have like higher click through numbers and higher open rates, and so that my readers and I know each other a little bit better. So each of my sequences is very strategically developed to tell them something interesting about me that they've already kind of figured out from my books. So, for example, I talk about the fact that I love trees a lot. Y'all know that if you know me, I love trees. I love me my trees. And one of the first welcome sequences that they get from me is why I'm a tree hugger. And it talks about this tree that's inspired one of my stories. It's a picture of the tree, and it actually talks about the fact that one of the hurricanes knocked that tree down. And
Oh,
yeah, so some stuff like that. And then I always ask a follow-up question based on that. And I'm like, do you have any special connections to nature? And just this morning, I got an email from a reader, and she was like, I love trees too. And she's like, I hate that that tree got knocked down. She's like, I have this favorite tree. And she sent me a picture. Y'all, in one of the emails, and that's a really beautiful, meaningful, but in one of the emails, I asked the question, do you prefer your toilet paper roll over or under? And when I tell you that is a hot button topic,
over has to be the only correct answer. I'm
look,
sorry, under is wrong.
I get really upset when people reply with under because I can't be like, "Hi, new reader, you're very wrong." Like, but someone did reply and tell me that they used under when their kids were little because the kids couldn't waste as much toilet paper, and I thought that was genius.
Okay, but I have a confession to make, and that is that my brother prefers under, but every time I go to his house, I fix the toilet
I
paper.
do too. I do too.
Every time.
Y'all, I am the worst house guest. Also, in the Airbnb, I had to fix the toilet paper because it was under and I had to move it to over.
Yeah.
I will do that. I can't help myself. It's just for me, but there it
Okay.
is.
Now that we've thrown out the most controversial topic
I know,
ever,
right? Right.
uh, should we go on to our tough love moments or do we have?
Yes, I want to say one last thing about
Okay.
onboarding before we go, and that is to make sure that you have the technical and the emotional bandwidth for them because
Mm,
it is a learning curve. Knowing how to set up the automations. I actually like segment my newsletter. So new readers do not get my monthly newsletter until they've gone through the onboarding because I don't want to overwhelm them and sell something to them until like I feel like we know each other. Other people don't do that, but there's a learning curve, right? You don't do that at all, but and that's fine. It's working well, right? Like
right.
it does, it's not a necessary thing, but make sure you have the emotional bandwidth also of responding to your readers. Every single reader that sends me an email, I reply to it. It goes on my, yeah.
I do too, and I will say that that has recently become more I don't want to say like challenging because I love getting the emails. My readers are all really lovely people
Mhm.
and they send me lovely messages. And it usually just like makes me so happy to hear that they're loving the books or whatever
Yeah.
theories they've got about what's coming next, which is great. As an introvert, it can be overwhelming though. Like I have days where I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth emotionally, mentally, any kind of way to sit down and look at a wall of reader emails.
Yeah. Well,
So I have to like break them up. And sometimes I'm slow to respond, but I do always respond.
yeah, and Claire Sager, who also writes romantic fantasy, she her email, like anytime you send her an email, there's an auto response and it says, "Hey, I only check emails every 1 to 2 weeks. So I will get back to you, but it'll be a slow response." So they
Mhm.
know that they're not going to necessarily hear from her right away, but that they will hear from her.
I love that. And I might have to borrow that because I
Yeah.
need to do something.
Protect your emotional bandwidth, like at all costs, guys.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. We ready for tough love?
I do. I am ready. Kitty agrees.
Hi, kitty kitty. Um, okay. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
You can go first.
All right. Honestly, my tough love moment for today is I don't truly think there are many shortcuts here that produce long-term results.
Hmm.
Um, it can feel great to see a sudden influx of new subscribers because you're like, yes, more readers.
Hmm.
But it's much more important how engaged and excited those readers are about your books.
Hmm.
If they've never heard of you and they don't even read your genre, you're just paying more money to have people on your list that aren't going to read your book. So, like, focus on engagement, focus on that excitement level of building fans that want to read your books and not just numbers. Like,
Yeah.
more is not always better.
Right. And I would also say I'm going to append to that part of my tough love moment is that the number one way, and I say this too when people ask me how to get reviews, sell more books. The more books you
100%.
sell, the more readers you're going to get. The more readers you have, the more of them are going to subscribe to your newsletter. That is how it works. Um,
So to underline that with some data, because you know I love the data.
yeah.
My list grows by several thousand readers every single time I put out a new book. There is
Yes.
no marketing push I can do that is bigger than me releasing a new book.
Yeah, I agree. I had 30% growth within just a week of releasing book two of that series.
Yeah.
And yeah, so but here's the love part.
Okay.
I have heard from multiple experts that the number one marketing tool you need is a newsletter. And I'm going to invite each and every one of you to question the premise that you even need or want a newsletter. I know. I know.
For those
It,
of you who are only listening, I just made like a horrible shocked
I,
face.
I just, yeah, I just broke April a little. I couldn't help myself. Um, you may feel like that is not on brand for you. You may feel like you don't want any reader engagement. You may be doing so well with your sales. For example, I have a medical thriller writer for whom I write. He has no newsletter. He's doing just fine without one.
Right.
It can be the case. So if that is giving you like bleh feelings and those are legitimate, that's not for me and not I am scared because I don't know it and therefore overwhelmed, which is something I invite you to explore and process. But if you're feeling very strongly like this is not for me or it's not the thing I want to focus on right now, that is okay. And even if every single expert tells you otherwise, that might not be the case for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that's the perfect way to wrap it up for today.
Yeah. All
All
right.
right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and quick shout out of thank you to our sponsor, Written Word Media. And I do want to know, do you have a newsletter?
Mhm.
And do you focus on organic growth or do you focus on pushing your growth, right?
Yeah.
With other methods. So please let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
And before we go, I wanted to take a moment again to say thank you to our friends at Written Word Media for supporting season 1 and this episode. If you're an indie author looking to reach more readers without losing your mind or your writing time, check out their email promos and ad services. They make book marketing feel doable. And if you're anything like me, you might even find it fun.
Head to writtenwordmedia.com and take the next step in getting your book into the right reader's hands.